One big beautiful bill is now law of the land. What does this mean for your retirement, your financial planning, and your investments? There's over 1,000 pages in this bill, and on today's episode, we're going to unpack the implications and share with you everything you need to know to be able to navigate this situation and thrive in the future. I'm Brad Lineberger, Certified Financial Planner.
And I'm Matt Callahan, Certified Financial Planner.
And we're with Seaside Wealth Management in Carlsbad, California. Let's dive in.
Before we begin, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. That really helps us out. Or if you're listening to the audio version, find us on Spotify, searching for Seaside Wealth, or wherever you listen to your audio versions.
All right, there's a lot to unpack here, Matt, so I'm going to just jump right in. But I think the centerpiece of this legislation is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 is now made permanent. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean, and what does that look like?
Well, it means there's a lot of opportunity and some barriers that you may need to, or roadblocks that you need to be aware of during this. But essentially, we've got a few more years to be able to take advantage of lower tax rates.
Right. So we're talking 10%, 12% brackets are here to stay. Those were supposed to sunset next year and go back to what it was prior to 2017. So 12 was going to 15. So how we have it, we got 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, 37%. Those are the brackets. That's now made permanent.
Right.
So the sunsetting that was going to happen next year is no longer going to happen. So at least for the next, I'd say, 5 years, these brackets are here to stay.
Yeah, and I mean, with the brackets being where they are again, some people thought they were high to begin with, but they were supposed to go higher starting next year. So I mean, even taking advantage of things like Roth conversions, you're actually getting a discount up front of a few percentage points.
Right. So I'm looking at this thing that tax rates are on sale. And just because it was signed into law of the land, my view is I don't see this being a forever thing. I think we're going to get it for the next 5 years. But at some point in the future, I see there's going to be a Congress that's going to make taxes go higher.
Mm-hmm. And I like that you brought that up. It says permanent, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay forever.
Right.
And then I know a lot of people out there are thinking, well, we've got 4 or 5 more years to take advantage of these. That's a long time. I don't need to worry about it this year or even next year. I've got plenty of time to do this. But if you don't have a financial plan in place, I mean, you're already way behind. I mean, right. 4 or 5 years in the planning world is not a lot of time. And the things that you do today can set you up to save hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes over time.
That's right. And some of the great strategies that we like to share with people do take a little bit of time to set up. So, for example, I think a great planning opportunity, if anybody in the audience finds themselves in a 10 or 12% bracket, maybe it's someone early in retirement in the gap years, maybe it's someone that's been laid off, or maybe they're taking a sabbatical. But if they're in the 10 or the 12, I am pounding the table. They've got to convert. They have to do Roth conversions because that's generationally low brackets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, if they're working now and they are in low tax brackets, it may make sense to switch their pre-tax contributions to the 401k to Roth contributions.
Right. In my mind, when you say low, I would look at 22%, 24%. That we used to call that the gray area of does it make sense to go post-tax or I'm now looking at that as pretty opportunistic, and there's a lot of folks in those two brackets.
I like that too because, like you said, we used to look at it as a gray area, but a lot of people out there just remember, maybe the IRAs or 401ks aren't the best vehicle out there for retirement savings because we're seeing more frequently that these required minimum distributions in the future are causing huge landmines in terms of taxes and in all different aspects of their plan.
Yeah, let's explain this to the audience. Mm-hmm. You guys, it's unbelievable what we're seeing. Matt and I, we're journeying with people in their 70s and their 80s, and all those years of stuffing money in that 401k before tax. It's great. You did what you're supposed to do. But I mean, Matt, we're seeing it. I'm seeing required minimum distributions, which depending on your birthday, is going to start at 73 or 75. I'm seeing these things. I'm seeing $100,000 RMDs, $150,000. Just yesterday, I saw a $250,000 RMD. can you imagine what tax rate that person's going to be in?
And it's unreal. I mean, and these things people think of, oh, I'm doing this pre-tax. I'm not paying taxes on these dollars. And you need to slow down right there. I mean, you are delaying the taxes.
They have a business partner.
Yes.
Tell them about their business partner.
Uncle Sam wants those dollars. But now you are delaying the taxes and letting those dollars compound over time to then have these large numbers.
So now he gets a piece of your growth.
But let's take away the 250,000 or six-figure required distributions. If you're not finding yourself in that area, even at face value, I'm seeing as soon as people are hitting required minimum distribution age, they are seeing positive cash flow.
Meaning they're being forced to take out more than they even need or want to.
Yes, and then this is causing that ripple effect that we've talked about of, okay, now you're paying extra taxes on dollars you don't necessarily need.
Right.
This could be increasing the taxes that you're now paying on your Social Security.
Yep.
This could, if you're 65 or older, increase the IRMA penalty.
Medicare
premiums.
gets more expensive.
You could now be reducing on this one big beautiful bill your senior deduction that just went into place too.
So I'm excited about this. I think there's that sense of urgency, and I hope people understand that. I see 5 years right now. Maybe there's more, maybe not, but 5 years, 10%, 12% bracket, you better be converting all the way to the top of the 12%. You're working and you're in the 22 or 24, think long and hard about, like you said, Matt, switching that 401k contribution to a post-tax, the Roth 401k, no doubt, because I think this is this temporary window of opportunity that people will look back in 20 years and really wish that they got serious about it right now.
Absolutely. And then going back to what you said earlier with 1,000 pages in this new bill, I hear a lot of people, advisors even, just being upset of like, look at all this stuff going into place. Like, oh, now we actually have to do some real planning. And I know you and I have talked, it's just like, we are excited about this. One, job security, we have to go through all this.
Right.
But two, I mean, all these things that we've talked about of just the planning that you're putting in place, Roth conversions, Social Security timing. I mean, now you need to take a deeper dive because this could affect some of these one big beautiful bills items that are going into place.
So the other consideration here. So yes, we have the permanence of the Tax Cuts and Job Act. That's great, but let's talk about Social Security, because there was a lot of promises on the campaign trail that, hey, Social Security is going to be tax-free. And some people think that it's tax-free, but it's not really, right?
Right. Yeah,
Break
that
it
was one
down.
of the misconceptions, is that federally it's going to be tax-free across the board.
Yeah.
But really what is going into place is there's this senior deduction that is, if you're 65 or older, a single, you can take an extra deduction.
They call it supersized deduction.
Yes,
or
right.
Yeah.
Over your standard deduction.
Right.
And if there's married filing jointly and you're both 65 or older, it's an extra, it's 12,000 total.
Right.
And so if you're able to take advantage of this, it depends on income levels, then that can reduce your income, which then therefore affects the tax on your Social Security. So Social Security taxes are dependent on what your actual income is.
Yeah.
And so it's not tax-free because the one big beautiful bill put it making it tax-free. They're assuming that more people are going to be able to take advantage of this this new deduction, which is going to lower their income and then therefore lower the Social Security tax.
Yeah, and I think best estimates now, 90% of folks who are on Social Security are not going to have to pay taxes on that income, is kind of what the analysts are saying.
And so, I mean, whether you're red or blue, I think that most people are going to be happy about that. I've heard so many times that people or clients being upset. They're like, what gives? I paid taxes to this, and now I'm getting taxed on my taxed dollars. This just doesn't, what gives? This doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Now, the one thing to pay attention to is there are income phase outs. So if you're single filer, it's $75,000. If your income is $75,000 or less, you can take full advantage of that $6,000 extra deduction. If you're married filing jointly, it's $150,000 or less and you're good. But then for single filers north of 175, they're totally phased out. They don't get any part of that $6,000 deduction.
And then as a couple north of 250,000, and you may be thinking, I'm never going to be in these this income level. Well, Brad mentioned earlier, I mean, some of these required minimum distributions may be throwing you off in there, whether you want to be there or not.
Right.
And then also, now you need to take a deeper dive into Roth conversions.
That's right. Be careful not to trigger those income limitations.
Because, so you could be causing unnecessary taxes by doing a conversion, which you thought and have been taught that these are the end all be all, but it could just reduce that new deduction for yourself.
So I'd put it this way. I see huge planning opportunities, at least for the next 5 years, maybe more, but certainly for 5. But you have to be thoughtful about it. You need a strategy. You need a plan. You need to look at it from all angles, not just the tax piece, but like you said, the IRMA piece and really the big picture. And if people don't, they can step on landmines that have unintended consequences.
And I don't want to say doing bigger Roth conversions and affecting your Social Security or your new deduction here is the reason you shouldn't be doing those Roth conversions. It could make a lot of sense to still do them. That's why you need to have that plan in place.
Right.
I mean, maybe the big picture is you want to have tax-free dollars to leave a tax-free legacy behind. Maybe the long-term plan is saving you more taxes than what you're affecting today.
Well, yeah, people need to do a multi-year tax plan, not just 1 year at a time. They need to be looking at 10, 15, 20. And sadly, most CPAs out there aren't doing this. They're looking at what happened last year and they're collecting data and filing a return. But good financial planning is forward-looking. And yes, it should involve the CPA, but it really should be a team of people serving.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that the advisors or you, your client, or the person out there is teaming up with their advisor and their CPA to make sure everyone's on the same page to accomplish the goal.
So back to Social Security, the one thing I want to make clear to the audience is this for sure is temporary. It's through 2028. So we get this larger deduction on Social Security, making it tax-free for about 90% of Americans, but only until 2028 unless Congress makes that permanent. So it kind of highlights, there's a lot of talk about, permanent. The Tax Cuts and Job Act has been made permanent, but everything else we're going to be talking about has a shelf life, and as soon when it's gone, it's gone.
And I think it has to go away at some point because by keeping this way, I don't know the exact number, but the national debt is going to increase. 30 million by keeping it as. Or not, no, 30 trillion, I think the number is.
It's a big number, and now with interest rates higher, to service that debt is getting more expensive. So that's why, to me, this is not forever. So I want that sense of urgency for people to jump on this and take advantage while they can, because it's not going to be here forever.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Social Security, larger deduction. The other thing, so let's talk about the state and local taxes, the SALT deduction, which this was contentious. It was capped at $10,000. So guys, this is, you get a deduction on your income, anything taxes that you pay for state and local, like property taxes, and capped at $10,000. Well, for most folks in the country, not a big deal, right? But for us in California, the West Coast, the East Coast, New York, Connecticut, holy cow, property taxes are way more than $10,000 a year.
Right.
We've been getting hosed for the last, 8 years. That's changed.
Yeah, this is going to open up a lot of people to, instead of just taking the standard deduction, maybe now they're going to start itemizing more often, which then again opens up more planning opportunities, because if you're getting over the standard deduction, now your charitable contributions are meaningful. And we know people are giving to their church or their philanthropies because of the right reasons, but if you can have your cake and eat it too and give and save on taxes, I mean, that sounds like a win-win to me.
Right. So we got state and local taxes. That cap has now increased to $40,000, up from 10. All right, so the coastal folks are going to be really happy about that. But again, not permanent.
Right.
That's only through 2029. And then it goes back to $10,000 unless Congress makes this permanent. Interestingly enough, this was one of those big compromising sticky points about passing this bill. You had senators on the coastal states that would not pass it unless the SALT cap was increased.
And yeah, you mentioned not permanent, and then this is a nuance in it, is that you mentioned the previous deduction was 2028 is when that could expire. This one is 2029. Yeah, so 2029. So just know, I mean, all these different things going into place, they're not permanent, and they do have different expiration dates.
Right. And so you touched on something earlier about standard deduction and charitable giving. There was an interesting little nuance in this bill that caught my eye. They're making the standard deduction, the larger standard deduction that's been in play since 2017 is now here to stay. So married, $30,000. If you're over 65, you get an even larger one. So that's permanent. But like you were saying, for folks that are charitable and they've been making donations, if they're not itemizing, those donations aren't helping them from a tax standpoint. that's now changed with this new legislation.
Yeah. So going back with the standard deduction and itemizing, just so you know, you either take the standard deduction, or if you're itemizing, you take the higher of the two. So if you are not able to get over that standard deduction, you are given to charity. I mean, like it is good. You're giving back to your community, but it's not helping you from a tax perspective.
Right.
But this year, what did they change? Is that you can now give
$1,000 if you're
yeah.
single,
Mhm.
and then
$2,000 if you're married filing jointly, and that's going over and above the standard deduction, whether you're over that or not.
Right. I thought that was pretty cool.
Mhm.
You know, I think the last thing you want to do is disincentivize people to be charitable. So the larger standard deduction that now so many people are taking, this just gives them an extra 1,000 or 2,000 if they're charitable. I thought that was good. What about the interest deduction on autos?
This is an interesting one. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. So if you purchase a new vehicle and it's a U.S. vehicle, you can actually start deducting the interest up to $10,000 on your tax return. So, I mean, buying a new car, they're very expensive now, but at least now
Yeah.
you can get a deduction along
but
the way.
got to be made in the USA.
Mhm.
So what is it? Time to get that Ford F-150 or what?
Hey, you've been saying you're doing it for a while. Why don't you
Gotta be
go
made.
out there?
I want my man card back.
Yeah.
My kids said unless I get a pickup truck, I don't get that man card back.
So Brad uses a meat thermometer when he's grilling, so that's why he said he doesn't have the.
Yeah, they
the
say
meat.
real men use their thumbs to test the meat. I know. I need that man card back.
I got to tell you though, his steaks do turn out better. So if losing the man card is the way to go, then that's just what you have
It
to
still
do.
tastes good. Yeah, but interesting. So $10,000 on the interest deduction for vehicles, but that's also I think we have 5 years on that one. I think it stops after 2029.
No, that one's 2028, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So another example. There's all these nuances. It's confusing.
Which, again, I'm going back to it. If your advisor is not getting excited about all these new things going into play, whether it's advantageous or disadvantageous for you, I mean, this is the time to figure out the ways around it, the legal loopholes to help sure that, or to make sure you're saving on taxes with these new things going into play.
Right.
And we love this stuff. Like every
Yeah.
day, just trying to find these things
Well,
throughout.
we
yeah.
geek out on it, and I think, and that's really what we love it. It's our passion, but it's what people need too, because there's ways to find opportunities to help people save money and do better for their family.
Right, and we love saying it that more dollars saved for you is more dollars for you and your family to enjoy the retirement that you dream of.
Right. Okay, we're kind of rounding this thing out. So the child tax credit was set to go back to pre-Tax Cuts and Job Act levels as of next year. That's now been extended. I think it's $2,000. It stays at $2,000.
Yeah, 2,000, which is good for me for this year.
That's right. You got baby Noah coming,
Yeah.
right? You excited for that?
Very excited.
Yeah.
So we're on the 1 yard line, and then we're here.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, I heard that there's that new investment account that's being provided for new babies born in 2025. Can you share more there? I know the gist, but just fill the audience in.
Yes. Good point. So this this is I think the one sticky point. I think they're called Trump accounts.
Yeah.
So I think that's which is going to piss off half the
Right,
country,
right.
but the other half's going to love it. But so it's a Trump account, and I think when you have a kid that's born, I think they put $1,000 in there. So it's an after-tax account, so it's gonna function like a taxable brokerage account would. It's not a 529, but the intent is to give people kind of a head start for either their college saving or just saving for their kid in general.
And to my understanding, I believe anyone can contribute to the account up to $5,000 for the year, increasing with
Meaning
inflation.
grandparents,
yeah, family, any family.
get the
members.
family in on it, right? So for folks that are going to take advantage of these after-tax accounts, I highly recommend you got to use ETFs or exchange-traded funds because you don't get any sort of tax shelter. You want to be really tax efficient with this account. So that's one consideration. You got to do ETFs or index funds.
Right.
But when you look at this account versus a 529, we get asked this question by clients all the time. What's the better way to save for college? I think this is great. Take advantage of it. Save to it for sure. What I like about it is you have flexibility. What I don't like about it, there's nothing to not like other than it's just taxable. The beauty on the 529 is it's totally tax-free, but the big catch is it's got to be used for college, or they say qualified higher education.
I thought in the One Big Beautiful Bill, they're opening it up to be able to be used for any education.
They did do that, except here in the state of California.
Okay.
California kind of thumbed their nose at Washington. There's that fight going on. And so, the rest of the country can use 529 plans to pay for private high school.
That's right. Okay.
In California, that distribution's taxable at the state level because Newsom hates Trump. This is like political drama. Which is really too bad because it's hurting folks that are doing a good job saving. But that's what the Trump accounts do, is they give people that flexibility to use the money. It doesn't have to be for college. Can be for down payment on a house.
Yeah.
Could be for a wedding. Could be for a car or something like that.
So know what you're trying to accomplish, think things through, and see what makes sense for you and your family and your overall plan.
That's right. And I think you touched on it earlier that now with this new legislation, it's more important than ever to have a coordinated plan, not just on the investments, not just on the retirement planning, but on the taxes, on the estate planning piece as well.
I mean, it's almost like dominoes. If you set them up, even a small domino, and each domino gets bigger along the way, a small little problem or something you do can make a big effect on the back
and speaking
end.
of estate planning, that too changed. So the estate tax exemption was set to sunset in 2026. And we're currently at, 13.99 million, and it was going to go back to like 5 or 6 million next year. They've now made that permanent. I think they might have increased it past the 14?
15.
15
so
even?
30 million now.
Okay, for
and
a couple.
so, I mean, good for you if that's going to be a problem for you running into that. But most people, unless you're trying to disinherit one of your children, you should be okay in that space.
Right. So it's a very few Americans that are there. But I guess it's good to know that there's certainly a much larger lifetime amount. So with these larger amounts, should people be thinking about gifting earlier in life to take advantage of this, or?
Yeah, I mean, that could be a great strategy. So right now in 2025, you're able to gift $19,000 or gift split.
Without counting against.
Right, but if you want to give more, you just fill out a tax form, and it'll reduce your lifetime exclusion.
Right.
And from what I heard, even if you were to reduce your lifetime exclusion, if they did reduce the overall lifetime exclusion, you wouldn't be affected and then owe estate taxes after that.
That's right. So it does bring into play if you are planning, part of your plan is to gift to the kids. Not a bad time to do it. And the beauty of doing it earlier is then now you get to watch the kids enjoy it.
That's the number one thing I hear, is that people, they want to leave a legacy. They don't necessarily want to leave a bunch behind when they're not here. They want to give while they're here to see their loved ones enjoy it.
And then really that's when the kids can use it, is when they're younger. It's when your kids are in their 60s, they're fine.
Utility factor goes way down.
Yeah, but when they're in their 20s and 30s, boy, they can really use the extra money. Maybe that's their down payment or whatever.
So, okay, tell me, I heard this the other day, a client wanting to gift to the kids for a wedding coming up with an IRA. How does that help them? Can they gift out of the IRA?
Well, I guess it depends. Technically, the challenge is, though, if a kid, it's every dollar coming out of there is taxable. I mean, that's really the issue, is the taxation on it. So
taxable to the person's IRA, who's the IRA owner.
Whoever's taking it, whoever's taking that distribution. Because I think what you're asking is, can they carve out the IRA and hand over an IRA to a kid?
Oh, right.
But that's what they can't do. So if someone wants to gift from the IRA, they got to make a distribution, and then it hits their tax return. So I guess the answer is it depends. Like so much in financial planning, depends on what tax bracket the parent finds themselves in that year. But that's more painful, because you're giving a gift, but it's after Uncle Sam's taken his cut.
Right.
So I guess better to gift out of your cash or your taxable accounts. You have a great strategy, which kind of ties into the tax code, about gifting low basis stock to the kids.
Yeah, so what you can do there, you say you have stock, it's highly appreciated, and if you're in a high tax bracket, as a reminder, it's 0, 15, or 20%
on capital gains.
Long-term capital gains tax. And then so if you gifted highly appreciated stock to your kid, who's in the, call it 12% bracket now, they may have the opportunity to sell at a 0% long-term capital gains rate. So now you're not paying the taxes, they're paying 0 taxes, so very tax efficient way to gift.
All right, so let's give our audience some action steps. Let's give them some talking points and action steps that they can implement right now to improve their financial situation based on this legislation that's come to pass. In my mind, the first one is absolutely explore conversions.
Mm-hmm.
So look at your tax bracket, look at what you're in not only this year, but look at where you're going to be in the future, and then start to think about those required minimum distributions to project what bracket you're going to be in when RMDs hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think for sure you're converting up to the 12% bracket, but then maybe you can make a strong case for those in the 22, 24. But have a plan, take advantage. I think you've got about at least 5 years
And
to do
then
this.
the other big one I would think to look into is your actual distribution strategy. If you're on distribution mode right now, and say you have a trust account or a brokerage account and an IRA, maybe you're doing all your distributions from the IRA, and that's bumping you up into being phased out from those other deductions. Maybe you want to consider doing a
Right.
combination of the two to get that extra tax deduction.
For the Social Security.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Knowing that those limits are 175 for single and 250 for joint, be really careful to tiptoe around that. Don't go over so you can enjoy the higher deduction at least through 2028 for
Yeah.
Social Security.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Any other action steps for our audience?
Always review the tax return. I mean, that's going to tell you a lot of different things.
Right. Absolutely. And then I think if you have been enjoying the standard deduction that's been much larger, I think little details like consider itemizing now. And so now those charitable contributions you can really, if let's say the SALT deduction is going to make it so you itemize, then maybe you also increase the charitable giving and really help to lower taxes that way, which with the lower SALT, a lot of folks weren't itemizing anymore.
Right.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Good action steps here. Lots going on. There's a lot to this. So you need a plan. You got to coordinate this.
As you heard, this is very complicated stuff. So if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at team@seasidewealth.com or find us at seasidewealth.com, and we're happy to help.